I met a guy on Tinder and ditched him. Not sure whether that was a good decision. Disclaimer, I have an incredibly good memory, so the post will be a bit lengthy as I don't want to miss anything. I've been called obsessed in other postings before, but I assure you, I could give you a similarly detailed account of my experiences with almost all of my friends for the past year or so. Not being able to forget anything is probably one of the main factors for my dilemma. My first date with a guy was kind of meh. He was super negative and I didn't feel any spark. Thankfully, I brought playing cards, so we didn't spend the last 1.5 hours of our dinner date in complete silence. Not amazing, but a good experience to make overall. Second guy was a very different story. He lived right across the street from me, and our first meeting consisted of meeting on the street market in the middle, getting coffee, and taking his dog to the nearby dog park. I was instantly smitten. He was nice, funny, had a really positive vibe. I liked his looks, his doggo, just everything seemed to line up perfectly. It really felt like there was a connection. He was upfront that he recently came out of a 5-year relationship, and that didn't bother me in the slightest. We sat and talked for about 2 hours when we parted ways to go back to our respective homes. I couldn't resist and texted him that evening telling him how I enjoyed our meeting and would like to meet him again. He returned the sentiment and invited me to watch a movie at his home 2 days later. Instinctively, I knew he didn't have any other intentions, which was true, so I happily accepted. Movie day started in the afternoon and was nice enough, even if I still think watching movies together isn't necessarily the best way to get to know each other. Afterwards, we actually had a very long, interesting conversation, though, and I was a bit more excited again. I think that's meant to say through. Our topics were fairly mundane, nothing about relationships or similar. At around 7 p.m. we decided that it was time to go home, and he accompanied me down the street since he wanted to take his dog out anyways. When I turned to say goodbye, hugging like last time, he surprised me by full on kissing me, like tongue and all. I was still as a stone statue, as I hadn't actually expected that at all. It wasn't my first kiss, but I felt neither fireworks nor any sort of excitement. It felt a bit gross, to be honest. Either way, he stopped, smiled at me, I laughed awkwardly, and we said bye. My first thought was, well, I didn't like that at all. What a bummer. But I choked up to my general inexperience. Back at home, I received a text from him, basically saying, sorry if I surprised you there, you seemed a bit spaced out. I said how it was fine, and he replied I would do it again. Somehow I felt weird about that. Not intimidating in the slightest, but also not really excited. Anyways, I invited him for dinner at my place, planned for a few days later. The day came and I was reasonably excited to see him again. I knew falling in love wasn't necessarily an instant process, and again, I am basically very inexperienced and thought my weird feelings were probably due to that. When we arrived, he didn't try to kiss me, thank God, and dinner itself was nice. I felt my excitement ebb away slowly though, and didn't know why. We retreated to the couch afterwards, where he decided we should play a game. He asked me to bring paper, pens, scissors, and cut out 6 small pieces for each of us. On it, we should write questions for the other and what we thought the answer would be. I couldn't really think of many questions, so I wrote stuff like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? How many other people did you play this game with? He wrote questions like, when did you last have sex? What do you think about Star Wars? And how many one-night stands did you have? When the time to give our own replies came, I truthfully told him that I never had sex before. He seemed surprised, but not bothered. After that game, we kissed for a bit. Still, super boring for me, sadly. And then he started talking about star signs. Now, I have my superstitious moments like everyone else and read my horoscope from time to time, but he made a huge fuss about being an Aquarius, how they need their freedom, and how he hoped I wasn't the jealous type. This was a very surprising change in tone, and I didn't reply very truthfully and said I wasn't. I'm jealous, but I wouldn't make it anyone else's problem basically. Then we kissed some more and that concluded the night. Frankly, I felt relieved when he was gone and simultaneously felt bad about that. I know it's silly, people on Tinder should probably not get so hung up on a singular person, but somehow everything about this felt so weird to me. The days after, he started sending me weird memes, including strange sex positions. I didn't think too much of it, but a part of me felt made fun of. He also sent my article how Aquarius are the star signs that most likely to cheat. He invited me to a dog walk through a nearby wooded area, saying how now no worries, it's not a code word for sex, and I accepted. In hindsight, I shouldn't have. I ended up cancelling the trip 2 hours before it was supposed to start because everything was just too much. I'm currently in the process of founding a company and leading a project. Having the whole Tinder thing going on was just my breaking point. I felt like I was leading him on if I kept going at this rate. He was understandably disappointed. I told him how he was just too fast for me and he said, well, finally you said it. And that was that. No more messages from either side for the next weeks. At some point he texted me something fairly shallow about a game I had recommended to him, but it didn't go much further. A few weeks later I asked how he was doing and that was short as well. Yes, I cannot forget the whole ordeal. I don't know if I jumped ship too early. If I should have just given the whole thing one more time, and my own insecurity and inexperience are the problems. When I think about him today, I still feel a pang of sadness and an equal amount of disgust at the thought of kissing him. I should likely be happy a guy was willing to be with me, despite being a virgin still. My friends say that's a total turn off for most guys, but I value myself and him too much to settle if anything better for both of us might be out there. I met a third guy after all of this happened, felt no spark at all and find myself thinking, damn, guy 2 was really a damn good package compared to that. I started to question myself again, whether I was simply too afraid or if there was something off with him. I deinstalled Tinder for now, but I still need some input. I don't know if my face should be to trust my gut feeling or if I'm possibly so scared that I'm manipulating myself. I met a nice guy, ditched him, and can't decide whether it was a good decision or a bad decision.